Hey guys, Wolfie here and welcome back to the channel. As always, the usual disclaimer. Any opinion here is mine and mine alone. Now this is the Future of RWBY series I've been doing off and on for the channel for a while. Now this time around it is volume 10 and beyond. Now in no particular order, this is what I'm going to be going over. What's known, what's not known, potential outcomes, factors in any of the outcomes, the varying scenarios, best case, worst case, what I would like to see happen, what should happen, what probably will happen, and varying factors for my decision, which this particular part will be at the very end. But the rest of it is going to be in no particular order. So without any further delay, I will be going into the aspect of what we do know about Volume 10 and beyond, should it get the green light. Now, for Volume 7 here and Volume 4, this has one big thing in common with Volume 10, a costume change. Meaning that we're going to be seeing something completely different for each of the four main characters, as well as anybody that comes back for RWBY for Volume 10 and beyond. Now, with that out of the way, we do know a costume change is coming. What else do we know? Now, another thing that we do know is that the animation team for Rooster Teeth did not get their contracts renewed, which does mean that Rooster Teeth will have to rely on a brand new animation team. We simply don't know if it's going to be coming from Warner Brothers, who owns Rooster Teeth, or from Crunchyroll, and they're owned by Sony. Now, it's to keep in mind with Sony and Warner Brothers, it's like they're directly or indirectly tied to varying things that have been happening in video games in recent times. To be more specific, Sony has their own rules in the sense of the video games that they publish, or things that are done by third parties and it's on PlayStation. So it's like they have their own like rules and ethics, all that stuff that differs, in my personal opinion, from each country's equivalent to the ESRB. So the reason why I bring the video game aspect up here is because you have to remember who some of these companies are tied to. And in this case, Crunchyroll being owned by Sony. Now, pertaining to Warner Brothers, they are the same company who have taken over varying aspects of the Mortal Kombat franchise. The Mortal Kombat franchise, which is founded here in Chicago by a company back in the day, Midway. So, and the reason why this is important is because of Mortal Kombat 11. And varying controversies, and I put that in quotation marks, pertaining to the Mortal Kombat female character roster. How they tend to look a bit more conservative than before. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not this decision making affected the sales of Mortal Kombat 11, because it turned out to be a bit of an incomplete game. And this is tied to the fact that the first week, they already had it discounted decently to put a bit of a patch in. And some rumors speculating about, what's the word, the loot box mechanics, being pay to win or whatever. So again, that's the thing with Warner Brothers, their controversy, and it's Mortal Kombat 11 of all games. Now, as far as I am aware of the Mortal Kombat 11 sales, it didn't do as well as the games that came before it, which could be a cause of concern. Now, Warner Brothers, it's kind of is key to be a bit worried about them, because again, you have to remember the costume change for the female characters, which they could do the very same thing to both Yang and Blake, should the animation team for RWBY going forward be from Warner Bros. And it's something that some people may not like. So again, you have to remember, Rooster Teeth, owned by Warner Brothers, which had their own little controversy with Mortal Kombat 11. And you have Crunchyroll being owned by Sony, and they have their own rules and ethics, that sort of thing. But it comes down to how the individual perceives the companies that own the respective companies, if that makes any sense. Now, another thing I do want to point out here, and I had this ready to go because I did a previous take on this, is that the viewership may be dwindling. Now, mind you, these numbers you see here, take it with a grain of salt, because chances are the numbers themselves have changed. The bigger question comes down to, by how much? And has it surpassed since the making of this video? But some people mentioning here that the viewership is not really good. And then you have to remember, there is a 2-year time gap between Volume 8 and 9. So even if Volume 10 gets the green light, we won't hear anything more about it till at least 2024, which is next year. Maybe 2025 be the best bet, possibly 2026. So it's one of those things, it's like, even if it gets greenlit, it's like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And it'll probably be for another year. Now, what I'm going to be doing here, oh, good Lord, what did I just press? Okay, so I just pressed on something on accident, so we're going to go into here, and you're going to see me doing this live. We're going to go into a particular link that I saw on Wikipedia, so we're going to go over here. Now, we're going to go into this particular one you see on the screen here. Now, I had it here, it says RWBY Volume 10 confirmed. Now, we're going to go into this particular item you see here with the red. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to debunk this. So this is one of those, I'm going to show you guys the link, and I'm going to debunk it because there's certain things that are very wrong with this. Now, this particular link, they're saying that Volume 10 is already confirmed, which is a complete lie, because it has yet to be confirmed. And the only people that can really say that it's confirmed or not is Rooster Teeth, Crunchyroll, Warner Brothers. Not some random link like this. So you see here RWBY Volume 10 Calamityverse. Now, they already given out a date, and it's going to be on HBO. And the reason why this is a complete lie is for one very key reason. When it comes down to things tied to RWBY, it's going to be on Crunchyroll first, then the Rooster Teeth website. So this is the first hint of the lie right there. And we really haven't seen much of the sense of RWBY going beyond 14 chapters in most cases. The only exception being not chapter 1. I was going to say it's volume 1. The very first volume. Ever since, it's like we really haven't seen much like beyond the 14 chapter thing. So this is a bit of a really big lie. And this is the first hint. The second hint, we're going to look at some of the episode titles here. Red Root and Royal, that's Volume 9, Chapter 3. Parfait Predicament, that's 2 chapters after that, Volume 9, Chapter 5. T-Intimus, Terrible Trouble, that's Volume 9, Chapter 8. Of Solitude itself, that was the end of Volume 9. Now, there's a lot of things here, it's like, it's a complete lie. Now, I think, I'm not so sure where this is right here. Places of particular concern. Let me double check my notebook here, because I do have it written. Yeah, place of particular concern was actually the beginning of Volume 9. So you have a lot of this going on. It's just like, it is a complete lie. Do not use this as your source. I am begging you. This is inaccurate. Now, we're going to go into something here. This is another part of the lie right here. You're talking about two completely original characters. And it's like, it's a complete lie. Because we don't know where these two characters are coming from. Now, you see here, Pure Nikos. I'm like, this is bad. This is why I'm going to say this right now. Do not take this as fact. And for what it's worth, I know I had this link in another video. So if you guys want, I'll have this in the description below for this one as well, alongside the stuff I've seen on Reddit. So that way you guys can get a gauge of what's going on. So with that bit out of the way, I'm going to go back into my notes. What else is unknown besides all that? The unknown we know so far is that we don't know who's going to be the new animation team. On top of whether or not the fan base will like what the new animation team has to offer. Now, another unknown is Volume 10 really confirmed? Now, some people are saying we're going to be waiting, we need to wait to RTX. We simply do not know. Now, the only thing that we do know is that Carrie was like wanting Rooster Teeth to talk to Crunchyroll about this. Possibly hinting that we're going to be seeing an animation team from Crunchyroll when, if you remember the RWBY Justice League crossover, the animation was actually done by Warner Brothers. So it's a bit of like a he said, she said of like, who's going to be the new animation team? Will they do a better job? Will they do the same job? Will they do worse? We simply don't know. Now, another thing here that I forgot to mention in the what's known section is that there are increasingly number of calls for cancellation or rewrite. Now, this also goes into the unknown section, because despite that, what will really happen? A cancellation outright, cancellation to rewrite, we simply don't know that part. Will Volume 10 get confirmed? Who knows? And then another unknown, and this is something people really need to start paying close attention to, regardless if it's video games, animation, comic books, whatever have you. Does what become canon remain canon? Because we've never seen anybody from the writing team for RWBY saying that this is such and such our endgame. Which leaves a door open for whatever becomes canon to break up. Leaving things open-ended. Now, some of the factors of what's to come. Now, there have been varying controversies tied to Rooster Teeth in recent years, and this involves two women who have left Rooster Teeth for varying reasons. One of them being Micah Burton. The other, I know, is Kaden, I think that's her name. But for Micah Burton's case, she left because there was racism within Rooster Teeth. Which, if memory serves me correctly, Bernie Burns had a conversation with her that humbled him shortly before she left. Now, what very much happened was that LeVar Burton, Mika's father, put Rooster Teeth on blast for it. Now, it was last year Kaden left because... And one of the reasons why Kaden left was because of the homophobia at Rooster Teeth, which was revealed to be true. And this is one of those things where some people seeing the post on Rooster Teeth and said to like, you should be doing this. And then you have people replying, it's like, why are you saying this now? You could have been doing this from the beginning and you chose not to. And another thing here, and I'm going to get a link in this in the description below, is that Rooster Teeth is actually involved in a lawsuit against them and against somebody that used to work there, but I believe it's Ryan, that involves SA. I'm not going to say what that stands for here on the video in case I get reported for whatever tied to it. But it's SA. The lawsuit is as far as I know, is ongoing. And it's I will have a link in the description below with that, like certain information tied to that lawsuit. So Rooster Teeth is in court for that. And another controversy that is tied to Rooster Teeth is their new logo, because there is striking similarities between their new logo and parts of a logo from an Australian restaurant chain. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to check the time here. Is that this may be more than one recording session, so please keep this in mind. And that's because the app I'm using to record, I have to be mindful of the time limit, which is about 35 minutes. So outside of that, so another factor in what's to come, again, I have to repeat this, is the Rooster Teeth animation team. They did not get their contracts renewed, meaning that the new animation team will be from somewhere outside Rooster Teeth. Now, regarding the Crunchyroll partnership, I believe Crunchyroll had some layoffs of their own recently, which could hurt things even further. Now, put all this together and you have a very divided fan base now. Which, if anything, in my personal opinion, Rooster Teeth really needs to work on something to unite the fan base. And some of their decision making in the recent volumes is not doing it, in my opinion. Regarding the possible outcomes for Volume 10, there are quite a few. And I will go over like the very ones, to the best of my abilities. Now, one particular outcome, the show itself, this is despite the fact that there is a script being written for Volume 10 as we speak. Despite a script for Volume 10 being ready, it never gets filmed, and it's redone in novels, meaning that RWBY finishes off, but through novels. Meaning that they would have to pay money for a physical copy of the book or a digital copy of the book to finish RWBY that way. Now, another potential outcome, Volume 10 gets the green light, but it gets a complete rewrite. Meaning that something happens to where Rooster Teeth can no longer sustain the RWBY IP, intellectual property, if you don't know what IP means. So it's like Volume 10 gets the green light, but it's a complete rewrite. And this could either throw the entire story off handle or improves. Now, another potential outcome is Volume 10 gets the green light, no rewrite. Now, that's just some of the better case scenarios, but I'm not going to review which one is the best case scenario, because I'm going to reveal some of the other outcomes that could really do damage to the remaining fan base. Now, one of the outcomes that could come to light is that RWBY gets canceled. However, it gets rewritten from the very beginning. And the complete rewrite could go in any direction, meaning that the rewrite has a very consistent story. Things are a lot better developed. Things are introduced more accurately. Now they could do the rewrite and it just sucks. It's like the remaining fan base says, F this crap. That could happen too. Now the final potential outcome, keyword potential, meaning that RWBY gets completely canceled, no rewrite. Which means that, and no novels either. So it means that Volume 9 was like the end of that, in sense of the main story. Now, what would be the best case scenario? What would be the worst case scenario? That sort of thing. Now, my answer to that, the best case scenario, worst case scenario, I really don't have a clear answer for that. And that's mainly because I don't write for the show. With that being said, however, anybody who has taken writing classes for some time, alongside those who, like, know fan fiction, know how to write a good, consistent story, it's anyone's guess. Now, what would I like to see happen? Now, this is my personal opinion here. Now, I would like to see RWBY get completely rewritten from Volume 1. Because when you look at things like Bumblebee becoming canon, it has to be introduced in a way where it's like, we know who likes who. And unfortunately, Volume 1 does not show any hint of that. Because Yang initially sees Blake as a lost cause. Yang also sees, like, the boys, being of a potential interest. So it's how do you introduce your characters? And things go consistently from there. So I'm one of those where it's like, what I personally would like to see is a cancel but rewrite things from the beginning to make things more consistent and executed a lot better. Now, another thing I would like to see is the entire story finishes in the novels, because honestly, we don't know if Volume 10 is going to get the green light. And perhaps the safest route this can go is for the story to be finished in the novels. This happened in Final Fantasy 15, where, if you guys remember that controversy back in late 2018, was that after, I believe it was Tabata left Square Enix to found his own company, Square Enix wound up losing 33 million United States dollars, and a lot of the DLC for Final Fantasy 15 got scrapped. The sequel for Final Fantasy Type 0 got scrapped, and what was supposed to be Season 2 for Final Fantasy 15 Dawn in the Future was redone as a novel. So the thing is, like, the remainder of RWBY is in the novels. That's what I would like to see happen. What should happen is one of my suggestions. And that is cancel but rewrite everything from the beginning. Because for those who want to see Bumblebee become canon, it's got to be executed in a consistent manner, meaning that from the beginning. Now, some people say it's subtle. It doesn't appear to be the case, because it comes down to individual interpretation. And some people may view it as more open-ended. Now, what's probably going to happen is either one of two things. Volume 10 gets the green light, no rewrites of the script, or the show no longer goes on, but it's finished through the novel. So it's probably going to be one of those two things. But the time frame might have the fan base dwindle down even further, which means it's an eventual cancellation, in my personal opinion. Now, what are my... Let's see here. This is a good place. Now, what are my... For my decision here, what are the factors in my personal decision making? So, those of you who may not know me well enough, I've been writing fan fiction stories since 2017, 6 years. And I've been reading it for about 2 years beforehand. So it's like knowing things you could understand. And the reason why I bring fan fiction up is because I think Barbara Dunkelman mentioned in a podcast saying that they've been paying attention to fan fiction. Now, in one point in Volume 9, Yang refers to RWBY as RWBY, something we never really seen before. And for me, it's one of those reasons where I felt Volume 9 felt kind of awkward. Because it's like I never really heard Yang refer to RWBY as Rubes until Volume 9, which is far more common in fan fiction. And it also makes me want to question, is the Volume 9 script as original as intended? I don't think so. So it's like, that's that on that part. My history as a creative writer. Now, when it comes to creative writing before fan fiction, poetry is more my specialty. Although I really don't have any poetry ideas to share right now. But I've been doing some format of creative writing since I was in grade school. So something, I can take a good look at. It's like, pay attention to certain things a little bit more carefully. Now, speaking of paying attention to things, it's about more like the he said, she said. It's like the tone. Like the way it was, tone, like, is it a joking matter? Is it sarcasm? And it's like, who can be really believed? Now, people are mentioning, you should listen to like RWBY, all that stuff. Now, I will mention here that Eddie Arribas, I believe that's one of the writers for RWBY now, is that he mentioned that a lot of stuff was planned, but the what and the when is like he didn't know much about, and then the fact he mentioned that the what and the when is unknown. So Bumblebee, we don't know if it was really planned or not, because Eddie Rivas, he's a writer for the show, and mentions that a lot of stuff was planned. The what and the when was more like a little bit in the mix, and very much undetermined. Now, Warner Brothers, granted, they do give Rooster Teeth a little bit more control of their stuff. However, they can still have the final say on this. So it's a bit more of taking things you hear and read with a pinch of salt. And then some of the info on social media could really factor things in that like you wouldn't believe. Now, Miles Luna, he is one of the writers for the show. He's perhaps the best writer of the show now. It's like, the fact that he left Rooster Teeth become an independent contractor, it's like, and we also know that he really didn't do much writing for this volume 9, to be more specific. It's like, it kind of bears the question, it's like, is RWBY really falling apart? As a show, that is. So, it looks like I'm doing a lot better on time than I anticipated. So, in my final conclusion here, that when it comes to stuff we see and read on social media, take it with a grain of salt, because that's all it's worth. Now, as for the future of RWBY, what really needs to happen, in my personal opinion, in order to save this entire intellectual property or IP, is a complete rewrite from the beginning. Now, there are going to be some hardcore fans that are accepting the writing as it is, but when it comes down, it's like, I feel it's also a lack of understanding of how stories are to be written. Because if you have Miles Luna taking classes on writing to become a better writer, it kind of says a lot that the writing can be improved. The execution of the writing can be improved. And until they really step up and improve things, this is something I cannot take seriously anymore. And it's heartbreaking for me to even say that. And I'm done with this video. So with Wolvieth signing off, I will catch you all on the flip side.